to
Mm. Hola, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. Do you have attendees joining or
Yes,
it's, I
I
think we
think
started.
it's yeah, they're gonna join in 7 minutes.
Okay. I think we started broadcasting for some reason, right?
Yeah, for, I yep, I guess.
So every time then when people join, they will automatically join, I guess. Hey, John, can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, good.
How are you?
I'm good. Busy.
Yes, I can imagine. But I'm so excited about this actually. So I was, last time we talked, I think it was so cool, and I think that's kind of something. I think we don't have any people here, Olga, right? Right now,
We don't have any people
okay,
yet.
we don't have any people. So yeah, so I maybe high level, like John, I want to kind of start from like just introduction, and
hmm
the very specific thing I'm really impressed was about you like transforming like within the world of legacy systems. I think it's easier to build like a very effective customer support organization from scratch, but it's
Yes.
really hard to make a change, with a lot of like inertia, right, within the company. So I think that's very, very interesting. And I think that's how I'm going to start. And I'll maybe ask you to share a bit of, background
Yeah.
story on FTD and yourself. That's going to be like the first question. Second would be like, I think more details around transformation, digital transformation of CX at FTD. I think you've got great story. I went through all the slides. I think
Okay, good.
covering some of those things I think will be very, very helpful. And I'll probably go into specifics sometimes just to clarify. And then another bucket I would say, like, FTD transformation. After that, I think would be great to talk about flower specific business. I think your point about customer experience, like for funeral versus birthday, they're very different, right? So I think how does this affect how you think about customer experience? I think it's very, very interesting. And then I think we're gonna like maybe the second half of the call will be a webinar will be more on the AI and like how you think about AI
Yeah.
transforming customer support and blah blah blah. So I think, and then we can go into like
Yeah, and
bunch
we
of
can go into just where it takes us from there,
snap.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it sound like a plan?
I think it sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you think we should add or you know?
Um, I think towards the end, at least hitting that fear that maybe participants might have around cost, that you have to figure out where you are because everything is different. There's simple plug and play. There's, it's the needs of the company, and then the technology that you're interfacing with really makes the problem of cost complex. And don't for them to not try to go towards AI because they fear cost that they don't even know about. Because in the reality is, in the long run, cost is going to have a strong ROI of 30% minimum, 70% reality in solving customer problems. And that's part of, you got to get there though, and you got to do it in a strategic way as a company, especially legacy companies with lots of legacy technology.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that may work in, because that's always, I know that when I sit on things and I find other people, they're always like, yeah, but how much is it going to cost? And it's like, you're asking that question way too early. You have to really understand what it is you want to do. If all you want to do is have a robot on a IVR, that's going to cost a lot less than more complex tasks and more complex interactions, which can be more expensive, but also can result in a bigger savings than the cost.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a good point. I think not just looking at the cost, when you're thinking about adopting AI solution, but more like the goal, right? Like what you're trying to achieve. And also like just, yeah, that's a very good point. Because I think in general, right, everyone is obsessed about ROI. Like everyone is just, like ROI, ROI, ROI. And I think sometimes, as you pointed out, right? Like if you just put that stupid IVR for very cheap price, but you just ruin your customer experience, right? Like does it make sense? I don't think so, right? So
Right. Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very cool, very cool. But how have you been otherwise? Happy New Year. I think we haven't. This is the first time we're hanging out in the new year.
Yeah, it's cool. I can't believe it's the 11th. It like still feels like it's last year. We're doing our year-end wrap and also looking at Christmas to be able to then fix some of those things into February for our newly merged company. The new company does things differently, and our merged partners are just amazing. I can't wait to learn more about them because they helped us revamp marketing at a significantly lower cost, and yet we came out in the end with a 12% net revenue over last year with less orders. And so it's fascinating. It's like, wow, we did better with less orders and less marketing.
Wow,
That's incredible. So
that's
it's
incredible.
really exciting to be part of that.
Yeah. And I think given this, macro environment, right, in terms of um like just doing like, more with less, I think that's kind of the, overall, I think, macro, like, I think sentiment, I think in the market. I don't know if you kind of,
Yeah.
being the
No, I
same thing.
think yeah, you're definitely that's the thing that is affecting everyone and why everyone goes back to ROI and gets so overly focused on that in the beginning and then fears, there's so much fear about capital investment and what ROI and when becomes the how long is it going to take? When are we going to receive this? So
Yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, I'm seeing some attendees are joining. So welcome everyone. So I'm super excited about this webinar. I think we'll give it maybe a few more minutes, right, John? And maybe we can get it started. Mm. Um, cool. We can maybe get it started, John. I think people will be just joining. So just want to say thank you again and welcome everyone for this webinar. So I met John, I think last year, but then and ever since I've been, super impressed by John's experience in CX, and especially because having been in this space as well, I've seen lots of, great customer support organizations, were built from scratch. But I think it's especially hard to, build a great support organization within the legacy, with legacy systems in place. And I think this is what John did at FTD. And I was like, I couldn't be more excited, for John to share about the journey at FTD and how, the digital transformation of CX happened at FTD. So welcome, John. Thank you so much again for supporting Codif, for, and sharing your experience with people in the community. So it's great. So For those who don't know me, I'm Chingiz. I'm a co-founder and CEO at Codif. We're building, customer support automation platform powered by AI and generative AI. And here we have John. And John, I mean, would love to maybe, give it, or give it over to you. And if you could share maybe a bit of background on yourself first, and then on the company, and I think we'll go from there.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. Really honored to be here. And Chinggis and I have had some great conversations, even though there haven't been a ton of them, but they're just great conversations. So hopefully we can recreate that here. A little bit about me. I have a background in leadership. Out of college, I went in the military. I was in for 10 years as an Army officer. I like to think that everything I ever learned to be a good leader, I probably failed at in the military, but also had the opportunity to learn and become a good leader. And so that really formed my life. And I don't know it's something I would go back and do again, but if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be who I am. Somehow in life, I ended up in customer service and realized how much I like the environment of servicing customers, but also building a team and organizations that can take that vision of the company, remain profitable and an effective cost center, but still create interactions one at a time with customers to solve their problems. And then that taught me maybe we should be preventing the problems versus solving the problems. And so that's what's built me over time. I've done multiple private equity placements in legacy organizations that are either about to be bankrupt, are in bankruptcy, or are struggling to adapt to a new environment. Like Chinga said, it's easier when it's a brand new company. You get to start from scratch. You're not dealing with all of that legacy, and that's how they do it, kind of things. So that really got me to where eventually the opportunity of FTD came up. And I learned in the military, when I would get the hardest unit, I would always say, why am I getting the group that doesn't do well? And then I figured out over time, that's probably what I'm good at, is taking things that need help and need to rebuild, restructure, reform, and move forward. So the opportunity FTD was very exciting. It was in bankruptcy. A consulting firm, McKinsey, was doing a consultancy to help fix things. Determined one of the areas was customer service that needed to not only become savings, but also realign and revamp. I'd worked with them in a previous transformation, so it just seemed obvious for me to take it over and start working. So that's how I got to FTD. FTD at the time was the behemoth in the industry, but had stretched itself pretty thin across multiple e-commerce avenues and needed to redefine and modernize with the anchor, so to speak, of massive tech debt and legacy systems that were so old and so cumbersome, that how to go forward from there. And so that got me to FTD and the start of the transformation there.
Yeah, this is super helpful. I'm so excited, I think to hear more about the specifics about FTD transformation. But before we go there, maybe if you could share maybe some high-level background on FTD's business. And I think maybe it's like, it's like spillover, right? Like the FTD's business in flower delivery. So how does it affect the sentiment, and how does it affect the way you think about CX? Because I think this is a very interesting space in general.
And I want to go back. I'm going to go back in history to start. It was 1911, and FTD was, I believe, and I'm told, the very first tech company. It was transactions over telegraph from one florist to another, and these florists banded together to form what was Floral Transworld Delivery into a telegraph business of, I go into my local florist shop and I buy flowers to be delivered to my sister in Toledo, Ohio. And they do it through the telegraph, through tapping out Morse code and sending messages via Western Union to be able to then transform not only the money and the funds, but the actual the actual order itself and the message and the note and the date of delivery. So going back that far says where we are, and that's the sort of irony of FTD trying to survive in a modern world, used to the telephone, used to 9,000, 10,000 local florists around the country that are the distribution point, that are members of FTD, to be able to then create an environment for consumers that's easy to use in the world of Amazon. Like, go here, I order flowers and they get delivered on the other end. And so that large problem created the area of how to move forward. And you mentioned sentiment, is that in the gifting business, it's joyful and it's gifting. In the floral business, one unique part is flowers can be used to show sentiment. And so there's the three examples I always use because they're different, is that a 6-year-old birthday party is extremely exciting and fun, and mom and dad are involved and relatives, and it's a fun event and it's joyful and it's colorful. A college graduation is very serious. A person has have a big stage in their life, and that celebration is different. It's serious and memorable, and flowers are meant to show that. And then another example is the end of life, whether it's sudden or expected, but using flowers to show someone that you care. And that sentiment is very different. It's sympathy, it's understanding, it's well wishes, it goes into a different sentiment, and all three have a different way to do it, and that creates that challenge in how to interact both digitally with the customer and what they expect, the florist, so they understand the reason for that bouquet, and then keep all communications in alignment with that sentimentality. And that's the added on challenge of our industry that makes it a little more difficult for plug and play.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think maybe we can go into the, FTD transformation story. I'd love to maybe, the audience to know, because I was, very impressed by the way you guys approach this transformation, and would love to get maybe some high level, like, problems, like when you joined, FTD, what was the like situation? What were the
So
problems?
to not to spew out numbers, the big problems were the amount of contacts. So you had to call us to contact about anything. We didn't have much self-service. If it was, instead of a florist delivered product, we don't have a florist in that zip code and it's being shipped by a box, we'd ship it by the box, but we didn't give you the UPS number. We made you call us and we'd look it up and we'd tell you what was going on, and we did give you a status, but we didn't give you the UPS number because we wanted you to have an interaction with us. And that was one mindset that was carried over from a long time ago that ended up costing contacts. We also sent out contacts that didn't necessarily tell the truth. And so a florist may be preparing the order, we sent out your product's been delivered. Customer that bought it calls their mom, "Hey mom, did you get my flowers? I'm so excited." And mom says, "I didn't get any flowers. I don't know what you're talking about. Must have delivered them to the wrong house," which then creates a contact back to FTD to figure out where are they, what happened, and how to then get that accuracy in system. So that was a challenge. Our order management system was old, and based on brand and how it was designed was not the same. And so we picked one technology that was across the entire company that we needed to transform and build, and that was the order management system. So how to create, how to modify, and how to research orders. And with that big base step and eliminating the multiple ways that was done was the first step in consolidation of tech stack, which then would lead us to doing other things. Whether it was interacting with the florist systems, which are also varied. Each florist could be on an FTD-based system that's in the cloud, an FTD-based system in a server, or a simple, I like to call it I'll date myself here, but the cash register point of sale system that is a little more simpler. But interacting with those systems to the order and the business was one of the big challenges. And so in customer service and customer experience, I had 8 different pieces of technology, multiple vendors on how we interacted with an order, separate chat, different forms of email, different messaging systems, internal to our systems, external to our systems, email, freeform email, and then also 2 phone systems that we would pass the phone, which I used to call it throwing it over the fence, throw it over the fence to the other phone system, never to see it again. And it had to get solved in that world of people on those phones versus the people on these phones. And so taking all of that and starting to figure out how to consolidate and how to research what systems would be best for us. And so we really relied upon how do we get this order management system down so that we're only connecting to one thing once we determine what is the best omni-channel for us in our e-commerce business. And so we went out I looked at multiple different channels, all of them great, all of them at different price points, all of them with different things, and found one that fit us, and ended up contracting with Gladly. And that started us into even further, I call it, it's not even low hanging fruit. It's the fruit that's laying on the ground that you just kind of kick into the basket, was what we did procedurally and internal in the company. All those things we could do to make the customer experience better, but also reduce the contacts and which thus reduced cost and the need for us to communicate with customers. We had high refund rates because of how we ran the business. So we, in effect, and it sounds harsh, but we sold things we didn't quite know if we could deliver, and fixing those channels and realizing that it starts with the transaction. And if you make a good transaction at the beginning, it's easier to service that. So year over year, for the past 4 years of our transformation, we've been able to reduce contact rates between 30 and 33% each year. And I always say, I get accused of sandbagging, but it's like, well, next year I'm competing against ourselves, and we're not going to see that bigger reduction. And each year we keep seeing more reductions based on innovation and technology. We are now 14 months into our Gladly implementation, and we saw another 33% with the Gladly implementation. So we know we're doing the right things to reduce contacts so that those remaining contacts can be handled sooner, more efficiently with skilled agents.
John, maybe can you please maybe highlight some of the specific tactical things you did, maybe with Gladly or with other tools which enabled your team to reduce the contacts by this high percentage? And
yeah, so being in different channels and I'll go to Gladly at a high level. It's utilizing that omni-channel environment to effectively communicate in all channels incongruously. And so the customer chooses, and that doesn't change the agent they're working with. Meaning things consolidate to the agent. Person calls us and is on hold for 30 seconds, decides to start a chat. They start a chat. They work through the initial questions. They already had sent an email in the morning that they hadn't got an answer to. Finally, the phone answers. The agent that answers on the phone says, I see that you're also chatting with us. Which would you like to do? I can take over that chat, or we can stay on the phone. Customer says, let's stay on the phone. They close out the chat. This is John. I've taken over the chat. We're going to go ahead and talk on the phone. Thank you. They close that out. They pull up the email and say, I got your email from this morning. I already know what you need to do. You need to change the recipient's delivery address because they're being discharged from the hospital. Can you please provide that address? Type it in, verify it, make it happen, and then ask them how they want how do you want acknowledgement? Do you want it in text or do you want it in email? And make that happen in a way that's easy, and then send them the right link in case they have something else to change and conduct self-service. So that that piece of utilizing Gladly was a big saver, not only in preventing multiple touches, which would have been an email agent would have had to at one point take that email and research, did somebody already handle this? Yes. Okay, let me close it. Or the chat agent who's on chat helping and looking up, going, well, wait a minute, what do you mean you're on the phone? Like, you're wasting my time. And then the phone agent who's on the phone but doesn't know the email and the chat is being handled as well. So what would have been three different people at possibly three different times is now one person, one conversation, and able to close that out. So that was a big reduction that we had. We had used the previous system we used was a case management system where there could be a customer, multiple orders in multiple places, and then each order could have multiple cases based on situations that arise with their order or contacts that create those cases. So you could have 27 cases for this one customer. And they have 27 different case numbers that they're like, I don't know, let me read you the one I got. This is so confusing. And it created a confusing customer environment, which going to a system for us like Gladly so that it's just one conversation identified by that person's name and personal information. So we don't need anything other than just whether it's their phone number, their email, to be able to know who it is. So that was a big step within Gladly. The other tactical step was how we went about the order management system and building that so that it did not require a ton of software developers and engineers, that it was simplified in design. And so I'm not a developer or an engineer, but that alone made things easier to correct when something happens, how to make sure, I'll use an example. How do we deal with nonprofits that have a different tax exempt code? So for example, a local church, synagogue, or mosque wants to have flowers for an event and they are tax exempt. How do we process their order the correct way so that those taxes are taken out with all the right documentation? So can be something as simple as that's maybe not a ton of business or a ton of transaction and order flow, that correcting it, simplifying it, being accurate, then in the end result in a better product. And I think some of the tactical pieces that we do within Gladly is my team in the customer service world makes the changes. And so if we notice a certain phone line at Christmas or the Christmas holidays is backing up, we can make our own adjustments on the fly within seconds. We can point the customer to a different direction. We don't need tech assistants. We don't need the help desk. We don't need an engineer to make the change for us. We make the change simply with a button with our few admins, and we can change messaging. If for example, there's a bad snowstorm in the Detroit area causing delays of delivery, we can apply it directly to deliveries in the Detroit area and message it appropriately so that a customer understands we're working on it. We know there's a delay. Your recipient is in the snow. They know there's a delay, and able to then deflect a reason for a call, which is, where is my order?
Yeah. This is fascinating, John. Also, I remember, when we talked, I remember you told me so many stories about some customers, and the particular one which stuck with me was the old gentleman. You remember?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great one, because I think it ties into something that in our previous life company didn't necessarily pay attention to because of our systems, which was lifetime value and how much a customer actually is loyal to FTD, and decisions are made transactionally on that transaction one at a time, and not always the best decision because the background's not known. In this particular example is there was a failure in delivery. This gentleman, who happened to be one of our partner service, he was a military veteran in his 90s, and he bought his wife flowers every month for delivery. And one of these deliveries absolutely failed, didn't get delivered. didn't get the right communication in a timely manner back to him. And so the situation was a little tough. In a previous life, we would have treated it transactionally or given what I call a brush off refund. We're like, here's your money back, don't worry about it. Or run them through a ringer to give them a refund and not pay attention. One of the things that we notice, we utilize in Gladly, is that looking at a customer as a whole, we could actually see the series of transactions. The agent could also see the messages that he wrote his wife each month. So as she was reading those messages, she wanted to do everything she could do to make this right for him and to be able to send him future flowers. Also to see that, like, as far back as her system went in front of her face, she could say, wow, he's done this every month as far back as I can ever research in our order management system. He's been doing this for years. Gosh, I have the power. She had the power to give him not just refund his money on that order, but to send an order and then also give him free orders in the future and say, hey, look, I'm going to cover the next 2 months. Let's set those messages up right now and get those happening, and be able to turn that into a situation for her, for the gentleman, that was, we messed up and we're sorry and we want to keep you because you're good for our business and we want to make this right for you. And we can, because in the long range term of profitability of this guy's business, we can easily afford how we went about it, and empowering that agent to utilize the information in front of them and Gladly to be able to make that decision and not tie up, oh, let me reach out to my supervisor, let me ask, let me get approval. It became a very easy flowing situation based on what he went through, his kindness, his hidden frustration that we could hear in the recorded call, and be able to then turn it into something better that in the long run is good for us as a business and as an image to do the right thing in that case.
Yeah, I think it's so important to, like, look at the customer, not like a ticket, right? I think
Right.
yeah, being customer centric. So yeah, this is great. Also, like, one thing I have, one question I have for you, John, is like, if you were to, start a new position at a FTD 2.0, I know, like, we talked about some strategic alignment with, executives, right? With making sure that there's like a buy-in and stuff, but would love to kind of maybe get the checklist, from you. Like, if you were to, if there's new position like FTD 2.0, like, or another company with legacy systems, how would you approach it?
So really, there's a lot of, like, I like to think somebody, actually, one of my good friends is a little bit older than me. He's also a military veteran, told me, he's like, oh, you've had too many different jobs. I'm like, no, actually, I've had the same career field, just at different companies and different industries. So I'm actually more diversified than he is. And I joke with him all the time. But in thinking of that, of just what I've learned in being able to go into that new environment, and for this question, leading that CX transformation, is understanding the full landscape of the history. Where are they and why? And understanding, because that's my college degree, is history. I'm a historian. And the reality of, in most cases, history at that time, in that moment, happened for a reason that people would thought was logical and right for the reasons that they had at that moment. And therefore, uncovering that reality for them lets you see why they became what they are, and then where you need to go from, what is the legacy system. So, for example, another FTD problem was our ERP system is from the 1990s. And so we make decisions based on that 1990s ERP system, which then doesn't give us the ability to exactly do the best thing for the best cost, because then we'd have to revamp the ERP, which is millions and millions of dollars. And so understanding the landscape, knowing the history on how they got to where and why, and then getting executive buy-in to change one big thing. And that takes being in the right position and working in the right spot in the company. I like to say, and I think I haven't been proven wrong yet, show me a company that does not have a customer experience or customer service leader in the room when decisions are made, and I will show you that they are a company that's not good at customer service, customer interaction, and customer experience. And I've never been proven wrong. And I think that that key part of being able to have a seat in the room and have a voice, also understanding the business, the direction of the board, what does the PE firm want to do, what do the investors want to do, so that it can all stay congruent and within alignment, but still have that person with the customer focus there to be able to say, here's what we need to do. And it could take a long time, meaning 3-year strategy, not a 4-month strategy, to be able to get to, and I will use FTD as an example, is we couldn't just go out and find a Gladly and make it work. We had to consolidate and get it down to where then it could work. Otherwise, we'd have Gladly interfacing with all these different systems, and it just never would have been as effective as it is now by us waiting and doing the baseline and foundational work first before implementing the overlay of customer service omnichannel. And so it's that then maintaining those relationships between the competing ideas. So marketing, sell, get hits, get conversion. Technology, minimize our development time, stay within budget, stay on focus. Human resource, human capital world of you can't hire more people, or what do you mean you're going to reduce the workforce? We don't want you to do that right now. There's different approaches from the different business units. Finance always wants to know the ROI. What is this capital investment you're asking me for? What does it really mean cloud? What is operational business expense on a monthly basis? Or what do you mean payment? This license cost us this much per head, and how to relay that information from customer service speak into the person in the room at the table, that it makes sense for them and why they would want to buy in on this.
Yeah. Any tips maybe, to kind of deal with, multiple, various stakeholders, any maybe lessons?
Meet them, understand them on personal relationship level, business relationship level. That's one. Two, have an understanding of their part of the business and what's important to them and where they fall within the board's vision. And that helps get buy-in and fall right into the right priority. I think the other piece is it's okay to not be the top priority. It's okay to be priority number 3, and how to sit in the 3rd spot and say, I get it. I know what this means, and we're going to get there one day, and they're going to see it. Versus I've seen peers and other customer service executives, this is the most important thing, and if we don't do it, we're going to fail as a company. And a lot of the room will go, no, it won't. We never cared about the customer before. If we start, that doesn't, it's great, but we don't have to start full in. So it's I'm joking, but it's that reality. Sometimes there is that. I've heard it. We don't care about the customer. We just need more sales. Wait, hold on. Let's think a little differently. But yeah, that's just my advice from my experience and my failures.
Yeah. This is great. I want to switch gears a little bit and maybe talk about AI, right? Because I mean, since I think last year, and I think AI kind of transformed, I think, lots of things, including, I think, customer service, right? Customer support industry. So I would love to get your thoughts, on how you think AI and automation is transforming or will transform customer support. And would love to get maybe some, some stories or some examples how you've been leveraging or are leveraging AI in your, day-to-day operations.
Yeah. So I serve on the board of execs in the know, and one thing we talk about a lot is it's not if AI will be involved in customer action. It's when, and it already is some places, and it's really that when, and how I or other CX leaders can do it at the right time that fits our business, within our vision, within our budgets, and within our customer strategies. So that if and when is there, but where, I've seen it where I didn't even know it was working. Like I've currently working with a company on our very front end, just voice only, and the so far the interaction in voice sounds just like my process improvement director. I swear it's her voice. She jokes and says that doesn't sound like me. I'm like, I think they recorded you and copied your voice, but it really works effectively to route. And so we're able to route and create self-service, and also provide information where the person can't find it on our website, which is a little bit legacy. We're working on changing it, but they can't find it on the website. So they dial us up and ask, and they actually are able to find out what is our COVID delivery policy on how we deliver flowers, and that they get the answer, and they hang up and don't contact us again. And we know they don't contact us again. And then we see that they order flowers, so we know that it was no human was involved in that interaction. They solved what they needed to before purchase, and they made a purchase. So seeing it from that in the small scale, I think that it will change more of what happens. We're also testing it in Gladly at the agent interface, where the agent can click a tiny button when they type their response. They can click a button that says professionalize, and I'm getting that word wrong. Make more friendly. We're even trying to figure out how to get our sentimentality to then, we want an empathy or sympathy button to be able to then retype what they've typed to sound that way at a click of a button. And that's powerful because, seconds, we're saving seconds, but we're also making a better communication with that customer that makes sense and fits their situation, so that we're not at risk. We've been at risk. I have this is a slightly embarrassing, but I have an example from our marketing world with our Pro Flowers brand, which is a little bit younger audience brand. And we had a marketing campaign that went out, and there was this whole phrase of how to use exciting phrases and emojis. And it just so happens this was a sympathy order for a person in the hospital with a terminal illness. And the congratulations email was, hope your flowers were drop dead gorgeous. And that didn't go over well. And that customer did appropriately escalate and bring it up and posted it all over social media. And we had to learn from that, because what was a simple happy intent turned into a very embarrassing situation that was inappropriate for that customer situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, AI is out there. I mean, we all, I don't know, I'm dating myself again, but we all know who Skynet is. And if Skynet starts taking over the world, people are scared, but that's not the case. And I know there's my own company has fears of PCI compliance, and that's one. Personal information, there are a lot of concerns, but it's meeting different companies and how they protect that information is really exciting as we evolve and advance, and the guidelines that are set in place.
Yeah. And in terms of you talked about this voice AI, right? Like, how were you thinking about which channel to go first? Why it's voice versus
here's the reality. I think I've been told numerous times I'm looking for a unicorn, because I'm looking for all channels, agent assistance, marketing understanding, and business intelligence, and I haven't found it yet in one solution. We have strange breakout. We have between 53 and 63% of our contacts are phone, and that's not normal. That's not normal for a contact center. Some of it may have to do with how we put it on our website and where we put our phone number. A lot of it has to do with our demographic, who are the people that order flowers from FTD, because we do notice it's slightly lower with our Pro Flowers brand. But they like to pick up the phone, they like to dial, and we answer within 20 seconds. So it works for them, it works for us. It's cheaper than email, so we're happy to stay in that channel if it's got to be email otherwise. But in knowing that, that's why I picked voice. So we just picked voice in a few channels of how can we actually see if this works? Can it create a deflection in contact, a self-service situation, and then also what is the impact to conversion of sale? Does that person place an order online?
Yeah.
Or are they actually calling us to place an order because they don't want to do it themselves online and they need advice? Like, I'm buying flowers and I have no idea what to buy. Can you help me out? And that agent on the phone will say, where are you sending it? What is the time of year? What is the person like? Okay, what are they allergic to? Do they have pets? And they can really fine tune into a beautiful bouquet that'll mean something. So that's where I think that takes us through that answer.
Yeah, it does. Also, one thing about the agents, right? I think, I mean, you kind of touched on like fear of AI, right? I think, and there are multiple like I think layers of this fear, and I think one of this is actually like agents, right? I think agents are, I think, how to make sure that AI is used to empower agents, and not to just shuffle them aside, right? I think that's kind of the
Yeah,
big thing. I think what's
really,
top of
the,
mind.
the the reality of not everything can be solved via AI or self-service, and customers don't necessarily want that. And there are complex problems. And so the ability strategically to get away from using those metrics that focus on efficiency, like talk time and average handle time, not engage agents in that and engage them more in first contact resolution and the hard to teach, which is lifetime value, but that bigger picture of solve the problem. And we're going to get these easy questions away from you, and we know that your average handle time is going to go up. Now my minutes per order are going to go way down, so for me running the business, it's less minutes. For the agent, that fear of, oh, my time's going up, but every call I get is hard. Well, you're getting the hard call because the easy call was already handled. And it's okay, because we want you to spend time and solve that problem and help that customer through. And even, if you can add an upsell or a future sale, then great, even better. But getting agents to understand that it's not taking away your job, it's making your job easier, and it's allowing you to solve those difficult problems, and that part of life they get to see over time. And so when we first launched Gladly in November of 2022, we had those questions from the agents of like, oh, you want me in multiple channels and this is confusing, and wait a minute, you're just trying to replace me, and why is this? Now a year later, this is so much easier. I love doing this. I love talking to the same person. So let's just say customer hangs up and actually comes up with another question, and they jump back in and they type a chat. The agent they were first talking with happens to be available, or they get the chat and go, oh, hey, it's John again. How are you doing? You have another question? And I don't have to run you through the rigmarole or even look you up. I already know it. And I can answer like, oh, yeah, no problem. That's covered. This is, we normally deliver by to a business by 5 p.m. So yeah, as long as they're there through 5:30, they'll get their order while they're still at work.
So I think it's both. It's enjoyable for both, right? For both customers and agents to speak to the same person and have the whole context. I think. Very, yeah, super cool, John. One question I have is about, like going back to like, I think AI tools, and maybe how would you go about, choosing maybe, a tool, AI tool, let's say, for your business? You mentioned about the unicorn, but let's say like you want to think about agent facing tool or like customer facing bot or whatever. How would you think about ROI, and how you would think about implementation and just in general, I think would love to
Yeah,
get
so I think the start is knowing your actual need and goal accomplishment. So is it deflection? Is it self-service? Is it reduction in headcount? Is it improved CX? And that's really a start. Then in your industry, so there are there there are people that can there are AI there's a lot out there and a lot of great ones, but there is, for example, the healthcare industry has different requirements than the floral gifting industry. I would say the same with financial organizations, and financial industry has disclaimers and different things that go on there that require AI to act differently to still create a great positive customer experience situation. So it's doing research and homework and asking and networking and finding out where they are. I think one of the hard things to do, and I struggle with this myself, is my peers in the flower gifting industry and making a friend of the head of customer service in those other organizations and finding out what they're testing and using. Even though it's competitive and it's the way it is, they have some insight on who they've tried and why, or if they're even thinking about it. So I think that's really a start, networking through that, utilizing organizations like, for example, Execs in the Know or Customer Contact Week or Frost and Sullivan, as well, learning from their events, their webinars. Of course, you can talk to Codif, and that's also a good option as well. But these are just my guidelines on how to go about it. It takes some groundwork, but it can get you started in the right direction. And don't be afraid to test things. And also don't be, I think the other piece is asking for pilots and small tests on a small scale. One of the things I learned in the military was prepare for every contingency, even though 95% of them will never happen, but prepare for it. Be flexible. And then the other piece is, if you're going to, we used to use the phrase fail fast and fail early, is really just testing small. And so test small, see what the results for before fully committing or developing a ton of time. And if it seems like it's a fit, expand it out, and then really work on that relationship with that business partner and make it work for you.
Yeah. Fire bullets and then fire cannonballs, right?
Yeah, and then go bigger. Yeah, exactly.
Even then, yes, even after that. I think we're kind of coming to an end of the webinar, but I'd love to ask two final kind of maybe more personal questions. So one would be like, what do you fear? I mean, maybe like personally in terms, but maybe professional as well. Like, about AI? Like, what do you think people, maybe in general, like maybe it could be like also misconceptions you think people have, and
Yeah. So it's a personal question. I my fear is the bombardment of inaccurate or false information that, if properly disguised, could be believable. And without a little research or knowledge or having the time to do that, just believing it when it's really not true. And that's a real weird conspiracy one, but it is also my, like, I've seen, I did some AI test that I did for fun where I created some art with a picture of me, and I decided I wanted to be taller and I wanted my hairline a little lower on my forehead, and I wanted to be, sort of built like a not a bodybuilder, but built better than I am. And I created this thing, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's kind of weird. Would somebody believe that's me?" And I jokingly showed it to my spouse and my wife, and she was like, "Oh, I like that guy." I'm like, "That's not the intent here." And then we redid it to where it made me older and unhealthy, and I was like, "Ooh, is that what I'm gonna look like someday? Oh boy, I better make sure I'm eating healthy now." But it's just that little piece. It's fun, but also there's a little fear I have of it's not real, and the reality of being real and being as true and honest as you can be. Does AI change that for us in a bad way, or does it really make things easier? I mean, I won't use the phrase, apologize for a dog barking in the background, but I won't use the phrase that starts SIRI or ALEXA, because if I do, something will happen in my office. But I love the fact that I could turn on and off the lights during the holidays, that I can do that in the evening before I go to bed, or that I can turn something on, or a spotlight outside to mess with my dog in the backyard. It's kind of fun to be able to say, turn on the back light, and it will. So they're just little things that are fun. So counterbalances my fear.
Yeah. Sounds great. Also, John, maybe some tips like how you use maybe like AI in your work, or like in just
Yeah, really the way that we're using it, and I've used it because I do once in a while jump in and take a escalated situation, or work with a customer or a specific partner just to not lose touch. And I actually do use I type it and then I click the button to rewrite it before I send it to the customer. So I'm using that and I'm pleased with it. I've used it in my own chat GPT to help write reviews. In fact, one of the reviews I gave recently, I gave the one that AI wrote, and I actually got a tear on the other side of the Zoom letter. And this is the best review anybody's ever written. I was like, oh, well, I actually didn't write it. I used AI. Here's the one I wrote. You get to pick. And she actually picked the one that I wrote because she said, that sounds like you. That's you. Thank you. It's accurate and it's you. But that other one's kind of cool. I'm like, keep your copy. So I've used it that way, and then also interacting with companies online on purchases, which I find easy and which makes me want to get there someday more than I am.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, this I think we're coming to an end. John, I think this was great, and we would we will have a recording of this webinar, and we're going to share this on our social media, and we're going to publish on our website. And maybe you want to maybe say some parting words, and just say where maybe if people want to connect and maybe learn more about your experience. I know like I can find you on LinkedIn, but maybe any other place you're present.
Yeah, the two main ones. LinkedIn, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you saw the webinar, and let's start dialoguing and talk. If I can offer some advice, great. I know I can learn something from everybody I talk to. So I love to talk to people. And as you can tell from this webinar, I do like to talk too. So we could have a great conversation. The other way is I'm on the board of Execs in the Know, which is a thought group for customer experience and customer service. It's a great community, well run, good interactions with great brands, as well as leaders from all kinds of different industries, but with a focus on customer experience and customer service, that can offer an advice and are willing to give that advice and talk about the trials and errors and what they went through so that you don't have to. So that's out there as well. Execs in the Know, and reach out on LinkedIn. And parting thoughts are, be true to you. Don't be afraid to fail. And if you're not in the room, sort of get yourself in there anywhere you can so that you can be the customer voice within those decisions.
I think it couldn't be a better way to end this webinar. I think being in the room, I think for customer support leaders, so that they can represent the voice of the customer and represent the customer's interests, right? So with that, thank you so much, John, and look forward to reconnecting soon. Have a great one, everyone. Thank you so much for joining all. And we can always we can always be available via LinkedIn or other places. Thank you. Bye,
Thank
John.
you, Genius. Yeah.
Take care. Bye.